What makes a community a great place to live? Is it great parks, beautiful homes, great restaurants, shopping, and cultural institutions? For me, it's all of these things. I'm Cristina Cuomo. I'm a New Yorker, a mother, a career woman, and editor-in-chief of Manhattan and Beach magazines. And this is Best Places to Live. Come and explore wonderful neighborhoods and unique communities with me, where life just seems better. You may even learn about a great area you never knew existed. As your host of Best Places to Live, I'll visit with the movers and shakers in communities large and small as we enjoy scenic vistas, learn about history, check out local flavor, and really get into the nooks and crannies of what makes America a great place to live, work, and play. In this episode, we visit the luxury beach resort of East Hampton on the east end of Long Island, where we'll visit legendary homes, beautiful beaches, and meet interesting people while learning about history, culture, and the arts. We'll talk to the uniquely talented people that make this hamlet a great place to live. Gary DePersia of the Corcoran Group is one of the Hamptons' most successful real estate professionals, working with owners and renters all along the South Shore. Today, he takes us on a tour of the legendary Grey Gardens.
This is a throwback to the early Hamptons when things were much more relaxed. It's a very laid-back, country sort of house. Beautifully landscaped. Pool, tennis court. It's about a long city block to Georgia Beach, so you're very close. The house itself has 7 bedrooms, plus an additional bedroom semi-attached to the house. It's on 3 levels of living space, so when you have company for the weekend, it's very spread out.
Grey Gardens was built in 1897 and has been the focus of a documentary, a Broadway musical, and a television movie because of its residents like Jackie O and her sister Lee Radziwill.
One of the wonderful things about owning a house in the Hamptons is the ability to rent a house in the Hamptons. There are many people that rent their houses June, July, and August, and then use it the rest of the year. And as the Hamptons has changed from a beach getaway to a country getaway, you'll find it very busy here on most weekends off-season. It's a wonderful place to be.
A very important center for the arts in East Hampton is Guildhall, site of many events with a rich history all its own. So I'm with Barbara Jo Howard, the Director of Marketing for Guildhall, which is the Center of Performing Arts for East Hampton. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Guildhall is really the cultural hub of the Hamptons.
Yes.
Would you say so?
Yes, very much so. The reason so many people come out here is because it is, or what at one time was, an artist colony. And we still attract so many of those people here. And we are so fortunate that Guildhall is both a museum and a theater and a meeting place. It's one of the only places like this, perhaps in the entire country, to have all of that.
And
it's
you
really
cater
nice.
to sort of everyone out here, families, children.
Absolutely, yes. We have films for free, for example, that we do. We have a lot of partnerships. We believe that we should partner with the entire community. Anybody that comes out here, no matter what the time of year, is really struck by the beauty of the light. And particularly since it really was founded by artists, they were completely enchanted with that. And once you have artists come, then suddenly people in the theater begin coming, and they begin wanting to show their work, and they begin wanting to perform. So that created a reason for being for Guildhall. Right now, during this particular time, it primarily is the Met Live screenings, the National Theater Live screenings, and some performances coming up. We actually are doing a play, Hamlet. We are working with classically trained Shakespearean actors, and we'll be launching that as well.
Well, thank you, Barbara Jo, so much. It's nice to see you again, too. The Hamptons International Film Festival is yet another cultural institution on the East End. It's a year-round organization that programs retrospective and new film screenings, filmmaking workshops, a screenwriter's lab, and a world-class film festival each fall, drawing film buffs, studios, and A-list actors.
It's one of my harder roles, and it was one of the hardest things to get made. It took me 8 years to get this film made because of the circumstances. It's a very hard film to make. It stars a middle-aged woman and a man that is not white. And come on, let's face it, our industry is white. It's a tough story to sell. But I knew that it was a beautiful story. I knew that it had magic in it, this script. I knew it. I loved the short story by Katha Pollitt. Sarah did a beautiful adaptation. I was here many years ago with Pieces of April and Station 8. I've been here several times. I love being at the Hamptons, love it. What I love about that is that it's laid back, but it's not casual. There's a difference. People are serious. You know, you want people to take your film seriously. You've worked very hard on it. So there are great cinephiles. There are cinephiles here. There's people who love cinema, love film. They turn out. Look, people have turned out for me today to watch me talk for an hour about my career. I mean, I'm not, Sir Ben Kingsley, but they've shown up. So I'm thankful.
Shopping and local development are key to any community's growth, so we visited with the local Chamber of Commerce.
I'm here with Marina Van, the Executive Director at the East Hampton Chamber of Commerce. So hello, Marina.
Hello, Cristina.
So you've been with the Chamber of Commerce for 20 years now.
Actually, I realize I'm here as long as the film festival. 22 years.
Wow. Well, you must have seen a lot of changes take place in this town.
I have. Very positive changes.
Yeah? What are the most obvious ones?
I believe the retail shops, the Elita Hari's.
The biggest retail space in East Hampton, correct?
I think it is,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a beautiful store.
Eileen Fisher, J. Crew.
Yeah, and Ralph Lauren, I think he's got 4 or 5 stores out here now.
Yes,
It's incredible. Tell me about the restaurant culture in East Hampton.
Maidstone, care of Maidstone, Swedish, and a little 1770 house that is so romantic. Rowley Hall for the best, I'm sure you dine there,
Yeah.
best hamburgers and mussels. And of course, there's the Great Palm at the Hunting Inn.
Yeah, that's been here a long time.
A long time, and you can always count on them. I love our restaurants.
I did a story in Beach Magazine on the best breakfasts, and they were all located in East Hampton because they're all at these very historic inns, and how you have to sleep there in order to
That's right.
have that breakfast. And they were fantastic.
I read that story.
You did?
Yeah, that was wonderful, and I was pleased to say they were all members of our Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, good.
Visitors to East Hampton should stay at one of the area's historic inns, with none more accommodating than the Baker House.
One question that we get asked a lot is if it was always our dream to own a B&B in the Hamptons.
Was it always a dream of yours to own a B&B in the Hamptons?
We were looking for an investment property to do here in the Hamptons, and we just walked in and it was love at first sight. And so Bob and I, my husband and I, we just said, how difficult can it be to run a B&B in the Hamptons or anywhere else for that matter? Well, it has its challenges.
Now tell me about the history of the Baker House.
1648 was when this house was actually built by Daniel Howe, who was one of the captains that brought a lot of the people across the Sound to found what is now East Hampton. J. Harper Poor renovated the house and made it into what it is today. Thomas Baker, who was one of the other original founders of the town, purchased the house in 1650. So it worked out. Before, they didn't use to tear down. You just build around it. That's why the core of this house is one of the oldest continuously occupied structures in America. We have 5 rooms in the main house. They're all different because, in your home, you wouldn't have all the rooms exactly the same, right? So what we want our guests to experience while they're here is that they're in their own home, away from home, so to speak. In the carriage house, it's much more masculine, and there we have 2 really beautiful suites, which you'll see.
Beautiful, yes.
That you like very
So
much.
lovely. Now tell me about the spa.
The spa is fantastic. We have an indoor pool. You have all sorts of massages. If you want a manicure or pedicure, we can also arrange for that. Our guests absolutely love it. So do I, by the way. I
And
do
you-
indulge.
You do.
We built the outdoor pool. We purposely did a negative edge pool so that the flow of the water, suits our guests. It just adds that whole other layer of luxury to the experience here.
I'm so excited for our delicious breakfast.
As you know, they're kind of legendary in the area. So we do breakfast burritos, we have chorizo in them and avocado. These are the huevos rancheros. Enjoy.
Thank you. Huevos rancheros. Good. Wow. But what's extra special about the Baker House breakfast is that you have to sleep over, right, in order to be able to have it.
Yes.
No one can just walk in off the street and order breakfast.
That's the catch.
Well, Antonella, thank you so much for giving us a tour of your beautiful Baker House. It's a lovely, lovely home away from home.
Thank you.
For those who prefer modern and new, there's plenty to choose from, like this home.
This was a property owned by the famous writer, editor, James Brady.
Correct.
And you came in, purchased the property, and rebuilt it into this magnificent house.
I didn't actually take any design cues from the house that was here.
Right.
I looked to Jackie Kennedy's house across the street. I looked at some of the homes on Lily Pond, on Dunmere, on Lee, for my architectural cues. This is a 6-bedroom house. There's also a pool house, a detached garage, and a fully finished lower level. This is the living room. One of the things you'll notice about the design of this room is that I don't use any crown molding. Even though this is a very sort of high-end house and it's very well designed, I don't use a lot of detail in my molding. If you look at the trim that's around the doors and the windows, it's very, very simple square stock, because it gives it a more modern, sort of clean, open feel to it. One of the reasons I picked this location is because I love the older estate homes that are in this area. You have more grand homes, you have homes that have a lot of symmetry, and they are larger homes, but they're also simple in their design. I feel like a lot of the newer homes that are designed today have too many roof angles, too many different types of windows, and if you look at the older architecture, it's very simple. So now we're standing here in the kitchen.
It's a chef's paradise. I mean,
thanks.
it's really stunning.
This was a lot of fun to design. One of the things that I wanted to do with this kitchen is elevate the ceilings.
And I love how you picked darker colors for the ceiling when most people are picking lighter colors. Why did you do that?
You know, I originally painted part of the ceiling in a light gray. It's a large enough room, it's got high ceilings, and it gets light all day long, so it can really handle a dark color on the ceiling.
What is this, bluestone? Or?
This is actually soapstone.
Oh, it's
and
so
usually
pretty.
soapstone is very green, and I didn't actually know what I was going to use for this countertop. So I went to a number of different stone yards, and I found this piece. It was a little thicker than I wanted, but it's beautiful, so that's it.
Beautiful. So this room is amazing. This is the video, library, media room.
Yeah, it's a den, a family room.
Oh,
it's my favorite room in the house.
Is it?
Yeah.
I can see why.
I went for a cozy feel. That's why I did a dark ceiling in here. And unlike in the kitchen where I did a matte finish, here I went with a super high gloss. It's called Brilliant Finish from Fine Paints of Europe. It's like a mirror, right?
Yes, it's beautiful.
I wanted to keep it beachy, so I went with a sisal rug, which is a natural fiber rug, obviously. But I went with this dark charcoal color to just sort of play off the darkness of the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I decided for this house, I really wanted it to look like a turn-of-the-century home, so I went with character-grade oak. So you leave all the imperfections. Normally you would cover all the floors up to protect them when the guys are installing the doorknobs and the lighting fixtures, in case they drop a hammer or a wrench or something on the floor. I left them exposed so that they would get even more imperfect as the house was being finished.
A distressed kind of feel, yeah.
The master bedroom, yeah, so I elevated the ceilings a little bit in here just to give it a little more drama. And again, I went with horizontal tongue and groove on the walls, which gives it a little more modern feel. And the benefit of going with a horizontal board is you get a clean cut at the top. You don't have a bunch of grooves hitting the ceiling. The house has been designed as though it was built at the turn of the century, so when people are driving by the home and seeing it next to all of these vintage houses, this blends right in. It doesn't look like a new home.
True.
And then it has a media room. It's got a nice wine cellar in the basement.
I'm surprised you don't have a lock on there.
I should, right?
Yeah.
The floors are Belgian bluestone.
Oh, nice.
The walls are a glazed brick. Rather than doing just traditional wine shelving where each bottle has its own cubby, I like a grid where you stack the wine upon itself because it looks more industrial. It doesn't look so suburban.
It's a beautiful home.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me in.
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
No one knows more about the rich history of East Hampton than the town crier, Hugh King.
We're here with Hugh King, the town crier of East Hampton. in front of the East Hampton Historical Society. Now, Hugh, I thought you could give us a history lesson today.
Okay.
Yeah? You ready for it? Okay.
Go ahead.
So what is a town crier?
Well, years ago, the town crier, of course, would make announcements. For example, when the Declaration of Independence was first signed. But my job as a town crier here in East Hampton is to go to local groups and talk about local history. I go to the town board meetings, I go to schools, I go to, like, the Lions Club and give a little talk about local history.
What are some most interesting facts about East Hampton?
The windmills. Do you know that the eastern end of Long Island has 11 windmills?
Really?
And the village where you are right now has 3 windmills. The Hook windmill up the street that has its sails on it is over 200 years old. Believe it or not, there's been a building boom out here, you know, but there's still a lot of undeveloped land. So you can drive around and see forests.
Very few of them
And
left.
within 5 minutes, you go to the beach. You know, that's the difference between here and the middle of the country. The middle of the country must be wonderful, but you can never go to the edge. When you grow up out here and you say the word summer,
Summer people.
But we have to remember, studying history, some of our early summer people are responsible for many of the beautiful places we have here. Guildhall was built by summer people's money, the library. We were called the Hamptons in the late 1800s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it had a different meaning than I think it does now.
Well, what did it mean back then?
All these Hamptons, if you wanted to talk about them, you put them together. Today, when you say the word Hamptons, it means exclusiveness, it means wealth, it means celebrity. East Hampton is different. We had artists coming here in the late 19th century, the great landscape artists. And
Like?
Thomas Moran, Winslow Homer, William Merritt Chase. And why did they come here?
The light.
The light, you got it, the light. And the ruralness of the area, they could put their easel anywhere and paint, nobody bothered them.
I mean, there are some big writers who lived here. John Steinbeck, Mario
here.
Puzo, many, many, many.
In fact, Willie Morris, Truman Capote, Irwin Shaw, and James Jones all spent time in Bridgehampton in the 70s. Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller lived in Amagansett. And she could walk down Main Street in Amagansett and nobody would stop her, ask for an autograph or anything like that. And that's originally, I think, why so many of the celebrities came out here initially. You came out here in the 50s, you could hide. You could be by yourself.
I met Frank Sinatra on the beach in Southampton when I was about 10 years old. Well, thank you, Mr. King. It was so wonderful to chat with you.
Most of what I said is true.
Okay.
Michael Derrig, owner of Landscape Details, is renowned for the most exquisite landscape projects on the east end of Long Island.
Landscape Details is a full-service landscape company where we work with from the lines on the paper to come up with a conceptual design to installing the landscape to maintaining the landscape.
What do you love most about the east end of Long Island?
I get to work with some of the most creative people in the world, writers, actors, chefs, all kinds of people who have a real creative soul. I think the project that I'm most proud of is a project that I did several years back in Bridgehampton. It was a collection of land parcels that were put together, and it wound up being about 48 acres of woods. And it sat on one of the highest points. You could see out to the North Fork, you could see across the bay and onto Connecticut. So it was really a spectacular view. We created a series of gardens through the property. And one is a pond with a stable and a barn and pasture. Another one was a sculpture garden, which had this great Solar-Wit cube in the center of it. It's my job to educate my clients and figure out, hey, listen, this is the experience you should have in your yard.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for being here with us today, and your work is amazing, so I look forward to seeing all the new projects coming up this summer.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you so much for having me.
There's a variety of homes for sale in East Hampton as well, for every size family.
This is a beautiful home.
It's a great house, and this was developed almost 40 years ago by William C. Heppenheimer III, and he bought the 124 acres and then divided up into various lots. So this is on 3.5 acres, and I think the largest of the lots. So you come in and you have this beautiful entryway. That leads into a two-sided living room. Very high ceiling.
Oh, wow, this is great.
And you have two conversation areas here. So you have a big party, and you have people sitting here in the main part of the living room in front of the fireplace. Then you have this room that opens up to the outside. So in the summer, when you're entertaining in and out of the house, it just flows. The walls lend themselves perfectly to artwork.
To an art
You
collection.
can see they've taken very good advantage of that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The dining room is large enough for both sides of the family, and you could put a much larger table in here if you wanted. It can be formal, it can be informal.
I like the detail on the floor too.
Then this leads into a wonderful, wonderful kitchen.
Oh, this is great.
Not only can you eat in here inside, but during the summer, you come out here and eat on this wonderful covered porch.
So pretty.
This overlooks the pool. So up here by itself is the master.
Oh, I love
The master
this.
has cathedral ceilings, it has a wood-burning fireplace. And then out here,
Outdoor deck. Oh, this is beautiful.
it has 7 bedrooms, has a 60-foot pool. When you drive up to the property, you actually don't see how large a 7,800 square foot house could be. So the best kept secret of the house when you drive up to is how much house there actually is. And on the putting green, this is real grass. This is not synthetic. Whatever you practice here, you can take it right to the golf course. Now there are many houses in the Hamptons that are going to the dogs. This one is not.
Going to the
This
cows.
one, you grab the steer by the horns, the bull by the horns, and it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Gary. It's been an amazing
pleasure.
tour.
Thank you. Thank you
such
for
a
coming.
beautiful home.
Being near the ocean is an attraction for many visitors and residents to East Hampton, but for some, being on the water is what it's all about. No one knows this better than Captain Jenny Landy. So we're here at the East Hampton Marina with Jenny Landy, boat captain and location scout. Hi, Jenny.
Hello, Christina.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for coming to my neck of the woods.
I'm so excited to have a boat ride with you.
I know, me too.
So tell me a little bit about the boating community in East Hampton.
This particular marina where we stand, I've personally kept my boat for over 20 years, and it's a little bit under the radar. It's old school, which a lot of us love, kind of no fuss, but they have mechanics and fuel, and it's just kind of a really nice vibe.
So tell me where you go out with your boat.
Once I get out the harbor, I either go to Cockles Harbor, which is a beautiful harbor in Shelter Island, or maybe a loop around Gardiner's Island, which is amazing. Sometimes I go to Sunset Beach, and sometimes I just take a book and a snack and float around and get away from it all. I think boating, paradoxically, is more of a social thing, unless you're just really working on your boats and fishing and clamming. Many people want the most seating they can get. I kind of went the other direction and took away some seating. And I do take a person out on occasion, but I really like to just be out there on my own and just kind of gather my thoughts and appreciate where I live and take a moment to reflect.
Now, of the thousands of boaters out here, you are one of the few with a captain's license.
There are plenty. There are plenty.
How many women?
I personally know 3 or 4 women in this harbor. There are probably more, and maybe they'll contact me now, but I do know a couple.
Well, Jenny, I love your dad's Donzi, but I think you need to give it a name.
Well, I'm glad you love it. It had a name, and it was called Indulgence when it was my dad's. And when I repainted it, I didn't want to rename it because it's bad luck, so I just didn't put any name on it at all.
Well, I'd like to come back, so anytime you're free, please let me know. We hope you enjoyed your visit to East Hampton, New York. Please join us next time on Best Places to Live.